Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to the final patch notes for Wild Rift in the patch 5.1 cycle. This feels a little bit weird to kind of go back to patch 5.1 since I've already released so many details about patch 5.2 and the upcoming changes that are going to be happening in that brand new big patch. But we do still have one more patch of 5.1 left to go, which is going to include some balance changes, some new features, some new events and everything, and also some new skins as well. So let's dive into this because this is still important, as these are going to be some of the champions that we're obviously going to be testing and playing when that new patch 5.2 comes out in just a few weeks time. Now, some of the new features are extremely interesting. One for all, and Ornn's Blessing, where you can now buy items wherever you want to on the map. Now, if you don't know, this is something from Honor of Kings and other mobile MOBAs. So it's interesting that they're actually doing their own game mode. They're also doing like a gold rush mode, which is like increased gold and XP, and also like a hardcore mode where you can't even see the enemy's health bar. So some really interesting game modes. I mean, maybe I'll give them a try just for fun. But it's interesting that they're kind of testing the grounds in terms of other avenues that they can go in terms of game modes. I mean, not only that, but they obviously have patch 5.2 with new Rift Heralds, new Barons, and everything as well. I think everything's going a bit crazy right now for Wild Rift, which is exciting because I do feel like the game, the more it goes away from League of Legends, but still keeps the core of the game, the better it is because it will attract a lot more people. Pre-season trivia, obviously with patch 5.2 there is going to be a brand new rank season, so they're just going to do a little trivia quiz on that, and then we get into the champion changes. First change is a little bit of a nerf to Brand. Brand has been performing pretty damn well in China, to be fair. I think he's one of the highest win rates at the moment in mid lane. This is not too much of a nerf. It's just like little bits of base nerfs here and there. You know, in terms of the second ability, 15 base nerf late game. Third ability, not even a base nerf, just a 5% ability power nerf. I don't think this will do too much to Brand. Honestly, I'm very surprised that Brand is doing quite well over in China. Yes, he's a champion that has a lot of burst damage, but I feel like he's a champion that doesn't have a lot of mobility, and he can get caught out by a lot of assassins, a lot of crowd control, and also a lot of these tanks like Maokai, for example. And when you get caught by Maokai, then you're just dead, I feel like, with Brand. Maybe it's just a burst damage being a bit too strong, but some of that is getting nerfed. Fiora, another buff. I feel like Fiora got buffed maybe like a month or two ago now. I guess she's been pretty stable, but now they want to buff her again, which these buffs are pretty big, to be fair. You know, hitting damage on a vital before it was 3.5% in terms of base, and then plus 5.5% per 100 bonus of your physical damage. Now it's 4% base, and now it's 6% per 100 bonus physical damage. So you can get a lot of bonuses now when hitting your vitals, which you can use with obviously your auto attacks, your first ability, and also your second ability as well. And speaking of that first ability, the first ability is also getting a bit of a buff. The base damage is staying the same, it's just the bonus attack damage going up. So they're really trying to kind of buff the bonus physical damage and bonus attack damage of making Fiora more of a carry. And also the mana consumption of third ability has also gone down, so trying to give Fiora a bit more power. I think the kind of problem with these sort of champions now is that there's no hole breaker in the game. Champions like Fiora, Camille, Jax, I think is a bit of an exception now because he actually has really good team fights with his new ultimate. But champions like that want to split push, that want the 1v1 duels, you don't really get that anymore in Wild Rift. There's no more hole breaker. Split pushing is not really a thing at the moment, especially in patch 5.2. Split pushing is definitely not going to be a thing, especially after Baron gets taken down. It's going to be a 5v5 fiesta down the mid lane. So I feel like that's why at the moment some of these champions are maybe struggling a little. Graves has just been struggling for so damn long. He's received buff after buff after buff, and he still struggles over and over again. And the question is this buff going to be enough this time? Some of the damage and some of the buffs are pretty big, to be fair, for Graves. You know, 1.5 second cooldown going down in terms of the early game, which is going to help his jungle clear. 15 base damage at every single rank now on the first ability, which is pretty damn huge. The damage ratio on monsters also goes up, and then also the bonus armor that you get from True Grit goes up as well. With the max, you can't get as much maximum stacks anymore, but I think that's totally fine because you're going to be getting more stacks quicker, which is really, really good for Graves, because He's a very squishy champion, so if he can stack True Grip before that, then it could be really good for his survivability. This is a pretty big buff on his first ability. I don't feel like this is going to make him really viable and really a strong jungler, but these are some pretty big buffs, and I'll definitely have to give him a try to see what he's like compared to obviously the pre-buff Graves. Jace is just getting a little bit of a nerf, 5 base damage in the early game, going down to 25 base damage in the late game. I don't think this will mean too much. I think the Jace will still dominate in the early and mid game, and it's still a champion that will be really strong in the late game as well with his pokes of his cooldowns. Kai'Sa finally getting a nerf. I feel like the Kai'Sa build with Terminus, Blade of Ruin King, this kind of on-hit build in the moment for Kai'Sa has been very, very powerful. Additional movement speed now on the third ability is going down by 10% every single rank, so you're not going to be getting as much movement speed. Oh, and also you're not even going to be getting that much movement speed, because the more attack speed you have, the less movement speed you're going to be getting. So this is a bit of a nerf to that kind of on-hit build. And then the additional attack speed is also going down as well on the third ability. So pretty big nerf on the third ability. I still think the third ability is more used for that survivability. I mean, the movement speed is pretty nice as well, but the survivability in terms of the invisibility that you can get as well. There is a bit of a nerf to an item later on, which I think is going to be a really huge nerf for Kai'Sa, and maybe we have to test a little in terms of what new builds that we can go with Kai'Sa, but I'll get to that a bit later on. Katarina has been weak for a while. Champion just gets CC'd to oblivion. You can't really jump in with your ultimate. Every single time that you play Katarina, it feels like there's at least one champion on the enemy team that just does way too much damage, or you can just get CC'd and your ultimate just gets stopped. So I think that's pretty difficult for Katarina at the moment. Base damage going up per champion level, which is quite nice, and the third ability also going up as well in terms of the base damage. So a bit of a base damage buff, and also the ability power going up a little. I mean, Shumpo damage doesn't really mean too much. The passive damage is pretty big. This is a big way in which Katarina can do a lot of burst damage, especially because you can move during your ultimate. Shumpo damage doesn't really mean too much, but overall, Katarina needed these buffs. Speaking of a champion that needed nerfs, was definitely Maokai. I mean, some of you might have seen on my posts on social media and also on here as well, Maokai was like top win rate in jungle, top win rate in support, top win rate in top lane, second highest win rate in mid lane. Like, this champion was absolutely absurd. So of course he's going to get a nerf. Base armor going down. This is mainly to nerf lane Maokai, because this doesn't really do anything in the jungle because he doesn't really lose that much HP anyway. Health regeneration on the passive, the percentage based on maximum level, is going down ever so slightly. I'm not too sure if this will make a lot of difference because you'll still have a lot of healing. I think the big thing with the passive is that it comes up so often that you can just keep auto attacking and keep healing over and over again. I think that's the big problem with this passive, is that the cooldown is way too short. I don't think it's anything to do with the healing. I think it's just the cooldown, but I guess they're trying to balance it out with nerfing the healing. So we'll have to see if that does anything. This first ability is probably one of the strongest abilities in the whole game. And to be honest, how they are only nerfing this by 10 base damage is mind-blowing to me. This first ability is absurd how much damage it does. You know, whether you're laning with Maokai, whether you're clearing a jungle through with Maokai, this first ability does way too much damage. Root duration also going down by 0.15 a second. Yeah, 0.15 a second in late game, which again is not really... These do not really feel like nerfs for Maokai. I'll be totally honest with you. Again, this is going to nerf like top lane Maokai, support Maokai, mid lane Maokai. This I feel like is not really going to do anything at all. This is definitely not going to do anything at all. And this is not going to do anything at all. So I think Maokai will still be in a completely fine spot, to be fair. Maybe he won't be as broken as what he is now, but I still think he'll be S tier at least. Maybe even stay in S plus tier. We'll have to wait and see. Nasus, again, a champion that just takes way too long to come online at the moment in the current meta. You don't get as many stacks. It's kind of difficult. They are trying to buff his stacks, so damage increase when killing a target is going up, and also damage increase when taking down a champion, large minion, or large monster is also going up by 2. So they're trying to buff his damage on his first ability to try and allow him to scale quicker. But I don't think that's really going to make a difference. I mean, Nasus just is useless. I don't know. It's kind of like Kayle, right? It's like, actually, no, Nasus is probably even more useless than Kayle. At least Kayle has a little bit of a late game. I feel like Nasus doesn't even have a late game, to be fair. I never see this champion at all in any of my games. So yeah, maybe that might change. I highly doubt it, though, to be honest with you. Thresh's base attack damage going down. I guess it's kind of expected. He's a pretty big lane bully. He's kind of annoying to play against. Nerfing base attack damage is okay. Slightly lowering the drop rate of souls. I hate it when they do this, by the way. They don't tell us the actual soul ratio or anything like that. They're just like, lowered the drop rate of minions dropping souls. Like, how are we supposed to know how big of a nerf this is? Like, I don't know. I hate it when they do these sort of changes. There's also another champion that they did it as well. I think it might have been Senna, to be fair. They were like, drop soul rate when killing a minion or something like that. It's like, how are you supposed to know what the difference is from before and now? So I guess they don't want to release that information, which kind of makes sense because it's supposed to be kind of RNG, I guess, in a way. But yeah, still pretty annoying. Trendemir, bit of a nerf, attack speed gain on attacking champions. Again, this is a champion that was just very, very popular in China. I think it was like second or third highest win rate in terms of jungle over in China. So passive attack speed gain when attacking champions is going down. This is probably one of the strongest abilities for Trendemir, and actually the ability that you max first. So this being nerfed, I think, is warranted for sure. And a bonus attack speed from Blade Fury, so from that, is also going down. Well, that's a pretty big nerf during the early levels of the ultimate. So you don't get that much of attack speed anymore. Yeah, I don't know. Trendemir is like okay. I mean, I think he's a lot stronger in like lower elos. And maybe he's just like one of them champions that can just keep AFK farming and be super annoying to play against. I can see that, but honestly, like if you play against good people, then Trendemir just becomes completely useless, in my opinion. Pick a card, any card. Red card, tons of damage. Blue card, tons of damage. Yellow card, you guessed it, tons of damage. So we're getting a buff to pick a card. I'm assuming that's what it means. Oh, no, this is just what it meant before. Maybe he's, oh, this is his tons of damage that he did before. Is Twisted Fate really that good? I don't feel like Twisted Fate was really that good. I think he was okay. I think he was pretty decent, but I don't think he was that strong. I mean, they're not nerfing too much anyway. Like the base damage is staying the same. It's mainly the ability power percentage going down by 5% in each of the cards, red card and blue card. So yeah, I think that's okay. Stack deck, third ability, passive damage, again going down by base damage. Active attack speed going down by quite a bit though. I mean, this was pretty strong, to be fair. I think a lot of people were actually running like kind of on-hit Twisted Fate. So I think this is trying to nerf the on-hit Twisted Fate. I saw people going like Magnetic Blaster and Nash's Tooth, for example. Trying to benefit more from the attack speed and just auto-attacking people to death, basically, instead of kind of this burst damage, which I'm kind of surprised that they nerfed this part. I thought they would have, like I said, I thought they would have buffed this part, like buffed the second ability, but then nerfed the third ability and nerfed the attack speed. So you have more of a option to build burst damage and AP with Twisted Fate rather than building attack speed. Interesting. Virus has been drawing a lot, all different AP items available. This is very true. We've updated AD scaling to allow you to explore more diverse. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. Pissing arrow damage, so this all staying the same, plus 10% attack damage, which is pretty nice, to however that much is, plus 187.5. This is basically charged, right? So this is like if you instantly cast the ability, this is how much damage you get, and if you fully charge the first ability, this is how much damage you get. I mean, it's like an extra 15% attack damage, also an extra 10% attack damage here. I'm curious if like AD Varus could be a thing, because they buffed Man Immune. Ghostblade is still a pretty decent item. Serpent's Fang is also a pretty decent item. Edge of Night is still pretty good, so you can still Ghost Raider's Grudge as well. I'll definitely have to give this a try with the buffs to the attack damage ratio, which is quite nice. Warwick has been hitting like a wet paper towel. He's been like that probably since launch, to be fair. I don't remember a time or a patch that Warwick was even good, to be honest with you. Base armor going up, armor per level going up. First ability, the damage is going up by 10%. Ability power staying the same, that's staying the same. Health regen, yay. Health regen going up by 5%. Yay. Honestly, this champion is just terrible. I mean, I think they need to do so much more than buffing the first ability by 10% attack damage and then buffing his health regen. Like, his health regen is really gonna actually do anything to keep him alive or anything. Like, I don't know, his abilities and his ultimate and everything just doesn't feel great on Wild Rift, in my opinion. Like, he doesn't feel that strong at all. These are probably the biggest changes in terms of items and also summon spells you can see down here as well. Terminus being nerfed by 200 gold is pretty damn big. Like I said, champions like Kai'Sa, for example, that were running Terminus. There was even like Varus was running Terminus. There was quite a few champions that were running Terminus, and I think this item has been strong for such a long time. I mean, even when Terminus first got released, you just look at the base stats it's given, you look at the item components, you look at the build path for Terminus. It's one of the best items in the game because of the build path, because of the damage stats you get, the tankiness as well you get at the same time. This is long awaited. Like, this should have been done a few patches ago, if I'm totally honest with you. But I mean, I guess it's happening now. Extra 200 gold is like an extra wave and a half, 2 waves roughly. Actually, it might be 1 wave. Actually, no, I don't think it's 1 wave. I think it's like an extra wave and a half or extra 2 waves for the extra 200 gold. I still think it'll be good as probably like a second or even third item for Kai'Sa, but I don't think you buy this as a first item now. There's no way you're getting 2,900 gold before the first dragon, or even trying to get it before first dragon. I don't think this is really going to. I mean, the stats are still the same, which is great, but it's an extra 200 gold, so you have to stay in lane for an extra wave and a half with Kai'Sa before you can get your first ability upgraded. I would say it might even be like Blade Rune King into Terminus. Honestly, the build's going to change next patch anyway for 5.2 because shadow items are being removed. So I don't even know why I'm talking about this too much. There's probably going to be a new build next patch, and in 2 weeks there's going to be a new build with patch 5.2. These are really nice changes. Again, this has been something that should have been done, in my opinion, a long time ago. Exhaust is completely broken at the moment. I mean, it has been broken for so long. They tried to nerf it a little bit. They tried to nerf the range. They tried to nerf the cooldown. They tried to nerf the, I think it was the movement speed or attack speed ratio or something. Every single AD carry still uses exhaust. And it's not because heal and barrier are quote unquote bad. It's more a case of you need exhaust in Wild Rift because there's so many assassins, there's so many bruisers jumping on top of you, and you gaining that extra bit of movement speed, or sorry, you reducing the movement speed of enemy champions and you reducing their attack speed really reduces their damage by quite a lot. I kind of like the barrier changes, you know, going down by 20 seconds, also the heal as well, going down by 20 seconds is pretty nice. You might see some of the heal being used a little bit more on supports now, even enchanter supports at times with just running ignite instead of heal, but maybe this might change. The thing that they did before, and the reason why Summon Heal is not really used that much anymore, is because you don't have, they nerfed the healing by quite a lot, but they removed the passive that if you, that your ally gets more healing than yourself. You get the same amount of healing now that your ally does. So they did that, but then they nerfed the healing, which basically supports were like, what's the point of running heal anymore? And AD carries are like, what's the point of running heal when I can just run exhaust? Barrier good now by 20 seconds. Barrier shield going up by 10 early levels. Like what is this, man? I mean, cooldown going down is cool and all, but like 10 extra shield. People still run exhaust. I mean, it's just the honest truth. People still run exhaust. I don't think this would make a difference. Like I said, this might be running on enchanter supports a bit more, but that's about it. Then you have the new skins: the Mortal Journey Kayle, Mortal Journey Shyvana, the Splendid Staff Nami coming through, Enduring Sword Talon, and an Immortal Journey Zed. And that is everything. The final patch of patch 5.1, the final patch cycle of the shadow items as well, before they're removed and before we get the new Hex Rift with the new Baron, the new Rift Herald, and everything else as well. I'm excited, but also I'm kind of like, I need to update my entire website again. So that's going to be pretty fun. I don't know how I feel about them changing patches over and over again. Because now, like, my jungle guide is completely out of date because it's completely different. Some of my A to Z guides that I've done on champions are also going to be out of date now because shadow items are no longer in the game. I don't know how I feel about it. It's kind of making me feel that it's really, really difficult to try and do these A to Z guides because there's so many big patches happening all the time. You know, there's like 4 a year, every 3 months or so, they're doing this huge patch. But hey, we still grind, we still go for it. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this little rundown. Let me know what you think of the patch notes down in the comments. And as always, take care of yourself, have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you all in the next Wild video. Peace.